Sorry.
Perfect. Yeah, so primarily focus on Southern Alberta here and customers headquartered. Mostly in Calgary is where we spend most of our time, right? But yeah, Faison and I've been working with Shing for quite some time, and we knew Shing from our previous life in our Dell days as well. So longtime friends. But primarily from my side, I'll just answer questions as they come. But I'm going to turn it over to Faison really quick to reintroduce himself, and then we'll dig into a little bit of a hybrid discussion here.
Awesome. Faizan Giovanni. I'm the sales engineer with Arctic Wolf. I've been here for 3.5 years. I think we chatted last year.
Yeah.
And I've been at Arctic Wolf for 3.5 years, but previously I was at Dell and Cisco for many, many years as a data center application cloud security consultant. I know a little bit about Canacol and what we talked about last year. Hopefully, if something's changed, you can let me know. One of the things I wanted to ask quickly was, Dorota, you mentioned that there's certain things about the requirements and the response. Can you dig a little bit deeper into the requirements, what they are now, and the response side?
So I'm actually going to pass that on to our operations team to speak a little bit more to that, because you're going to be a little bit more aware than me in sales, if you don't mind. So maybe Johan or Lung, if you could step in here. Thank you.
Yeah, just in general terms, we have, as Dorota mentioned, we have two main locations in Canada and Colombia. Canada, there's not that many users, around between 30 and 40 users most of the time. In Colombia, they have their main operations. Sometimes there has been in devices in total in the company, we have around 400 or more devices, 400 plus. Also, they have in Colombia the OT side. I don't know if that's going to be included in this conversation, but it's another element that Canacol was looking in if not now, in the near future, to have a security also on their OT side of the things. They also have users in the US and in Europe, but those are in a small quantity, a couple of them in Europe possibly, and no more than 10 in the US, if I don't remember wrong. I think that's in the
Is it still Microsoft Defender for the endpoint?
Yeah, still Microsoft Defender.
Okay. And is there any like other specific requirements other than the locations?
Well, other than the OT, I don't remember over my head. Any other that you remember, Carlos?
No, I think you got it.
Awesome. And Carlos, if you have a certain wish list of things like, oh, this is what I would like to add on to the current thing that I currently have, or I wish this was better, feel free to let me know as well.
Sure.
Awesome. So what we'll do is, based on that information, I'll quickly give you an overview of Arctic Wolf in terms of the monitoring and what we do. The biggest thing is, and again, I do want you guys to feel free to interrupt me for questions, whether it's a Shing team or Canacol team. So let's keep it conversational. The main thing that we're going to try to tell you and explain to you is that there's a certain concept that we're trying to address at Arctic Wolf. There's something, if you've heard of, it's called cyber risk. There's, in terms of a risk, Arctic Wolf looks at it in terms of how likely is something going to happen, and then if it happens, what's the impact, right? So the likelihood multiplied by the impact. What we want to do is we want to address both the likelihood and the impact. So traditionally with our triage team 24/7, this is where a lot of the times the service will target is we'll watch the 24/7, we'll do the alerts, and we'll respond to it, right? So the detection response side. And that's really tactical. Something happens, let's respond to it. What we also do is we give you 3 security engineers named to Canacol to work with Shing alongside Shing's team that are called the concierge security team. So the concierge security team are going to be doing the proactive analysis of what we can do to prevent attacks in Canacol's environment. So not just about the detection response, but more about the prevention, the tactical stuff, the strategic aspects, the reporting, all that stuff. So I'm going to walk you through a lot of that today. What we sell is actually four different things, but mostly three services. Today, we're going to be talking mostly about our SOC as a service. Our SOC as a service is the broad visibility 24/7, the response items with the containment, whether it's users, network, endpoints, and then have the concierge team. But we also have vulnerability scanning and user training, which we won't dig into too much today, but we can dig into another day if we want to get into that. But I don't think it's a requirement for today unless Dorota and team, you can let me know. Okay. So the fourth thing that we actually, part of our SOC as a service, is that we actually have an endpoint EDR system as well. It can be either purchased by itself, used in conjunction with Defender or replace Defender, or it's an optional item that you don't have to get. Our service doesn't depend on it, but I'll tell you how it works with our service and what are the benefits of it. One of the things that when you take a look at cybersecurity is that attackers, they have a certain chain of attack, meaning that they're going to look for your vulnerabilities that they're going to exploit. Then they're going to come in and try to get the data out of a system. From there, they're going to try to get more data or more accounts in the environment and then move around trying to figure out where the important stuff is, right? So they're going to come in, they're going to move around, they're going to try to access some stuff, and then they're going to try to pull that data out, whether it's through SFTP or Mega Upload or whatever it is. And then they're going to ransom you or try to ransom you and extort you. One of the things that we're seeing right now is that although antiviruses are pretty good at stopping that deployment of ransomware, so when I double click on it, it'll say contained. If I launch 87 or 100 of these ransomware systems at once, at least I know that I will brick your server, meaning your server will get bricked because the antivirus or the EDR agent might have a performance overhead and it'll basically stall out. So there's something that they're overwhelming a lot of the ransomware. So it depends on who's attacking you, how much they want to get into the environment. So at this point, we want to be able to prevent the attack by detecting it earlier. And then this is where the vulnerability scanning comes in to say, these are the vulnerabilities that are going to get exploited. And this is what we need to do to prevent them from being exploited. So we want to get earlier and earlier in the attack chain. That's really the concept, is that if we can't stop them, because if we can't update this vulnerability and they get here, how can we stop them at this point? If we can't stop them at this point, how can we stop them at this point, right? So I'm going to walk you through a lot of those examples today in this situation. And it's going to be mostly structured around this detection and response SOC as a service. So any questions on that attack chain, the anatomy, what we're going to go over, any specific request with regards to that?
No,
Awesome.
not for me.
Usually I'm like watching on the camera for people's reactions and facial expressions, but I don't see a lot of people on camera, so that's why I'm just checking in periodically. So we got to start with the architecture, right? We have to start with the data. The data has to come in, and then we can do something with the data. So how do we get the data in? Well, Arctic Wolf is quite unique in the fact that in this platform, we're not just a SIM, and we're not just XDR. Does anyone not know what XDR stands for? Perfect. So extended detection and response, a lot of the times, sorry, someone's going to say something. No. Yeah, so a lot of the times what happens is that we're sending our data through logs into a platform, into a SIM. And then from there, we have to parse those alerts and then watch those alerts. But they're raw logs. And then we have to come up with the alerts. We have to come up with, okay, this log says this, alert me if I see this in the logs. But then there's also technology like your Defender that is sending out alerts by itself, right? So you're going to get alerts from Defender, you're going to get alerts from your SIM, but those two alerts might be completely different, but we don't know if they're part of the same attack. So correlating those two and connecting into Defender through APIs, correlating that into the platform and correlating everything to say, okay, if there's an alert, all of these things are related to it, is essentially what this platform is doing with the XDR. So the Open XDR platform is actually vendor agnostic. We're not dependent on a certain endpoint. A lot of the times, if you have a company, they'll sell their product, they'll be experts in that product. But Arctic Wolf is unique because you can have Defender, you can replace it with our endpoint, you can replace it with another one, Sentinel, Sentinel-1, CrowdStrike, Aurora Defense, whichever one you choose, you can actually move around between the endpoint systems, and then we can still correlate all that data. And then we also plug in APIs directly into Office 365, into Entra ID, into all of the identity platforms, right? If you have different MFA platforms. So from what I remember last time, right, you have FortiGate firewalls, Defender endpoint, and then you have MFA through Microsoft Azure, and then you have Office 365, if that's still all accurate, right?
Yeah, it is still the same. Yeah.
It's correct.
So all that information, we're going to be taking that in, but we take that in both through APIs and logs. The benefit there is that as we take in those two different systems, is that the generation of the alerts that come from Microsoft are going to be augmented from the alerts that we pull out that are unique to us, right? So we're going to find more alerts than Microsoft will tell us, but then we'll also see the default Microsoft alerts and we'll combine the two and then look for attacks. Beyond that, we're going to be giving you two pieces of technology that will augment some gaps. Right now, your FortiGate firewalls, you might have subscribed for intrusion prevention, intrusion detection as part of the firewall licenses, but we're going to give you a network sensor, which is essentially an intrusion detection system that sits behind the firewall. So if anything passes through your Fortinet, we're looking for that network traffic coming in. There might be times where you'll see some HTTP traffic that is command controlling, but it's just a signature based. And we're seeing that someone's trying to reach out to a server in Australia, but it's a command control signature for remote access. So is that malicious or not? Because sometimes people will use that for remote management. So comparing that type of telemetry, especially if you have OT or IoT stuff, comparing that network traffic to a malicious network traffic and looking for those intrusions. So essentially, we'll take it. Sorry, go ahead.
Faizan, sorry to interrupt you, but you said that we can. So I'm taking instruction well. So currently, we don't have sensors in the environment for the existing, system.
Solution, yeah.
So I'm inviting the team to ask some questions specifically around, how many sensors might we need, considering that there is Bogota, there is Canada, there might be different kind of, maybe even regulations or whatever else in each individual country. Does that play a part at all? And I see Carlos wanted to add to that question.
Yeah, so Dorota, actually we have 5 collectors to date.
We do. Okay.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Those are log collectors, right?
Yes, there we have one in Calgary office and in Colombia.
3 in Colombia. Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
3 in Colombia, 2 in Colombia.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm clearly out of the loop. Apologies.
No,
Okay.
those are going to be different.
Yeah.
Those are going to be a little
Yeah.
bit different than this. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll let the Arctic Wolf guys expand more, but Carlos, the big difference is the sensors that Arctic Wolf will deploy, they perform both log collection and scanning. We'll call it scanning, so I make sure I use the right terminology. They can
This is
monitor
good.
traffic and scan the network for types of traffic and alert back to Arctic Wolf, rather than just the existing VMs that are deployed are just log collectors.
Yeah, that's an interesting fact is that we used to be called Arctic Wolf networks before it was just Arctic Wolf. We really started off on the network side. So these network sensors, they're low overhead, right? They're not a big overhead. They're not trying to map out your network and then learn it as like a baseline. What they're basically doing is that your network traffic coming north and south, they're looking for intrusions. So we basically have our own threat intelligence. We subscribe to industry standard ones like Enhanced Threats Pro, if you've heard of certain things like that, but we have our own custom detections for things like if there's a man in the middle attack, meaning that if someone is trying to pretend to be a server to get the credentials from Active Directory to log into Active Directory and then try to hack the Active Directory server, we're looking for those kind of man in the middle attacks. We're looking for any sort of things like SQL injection or people injecting themselves between the application and the database. So there's a lot of these different things that we're looking for that allow us to find attacks sooner. The main thing is that we want to find attacks sooner in the attack chain. And these sensors, we deploy them anywhere you have servers with internet access. Okay? So I'll talk about more of that into the sizing. So once we go later on, we can talk about the sizing, but there's only one requirement, Dorota, that we have to do is that Faison has to install them personally in Colombia. That's it. Scott just nodded, so that's okay.
And I need to oversee that, Faison. So
yes,
I guess we're
of
going
course.
together.
Dorota
yes,
needs to oversee
yes,
that.
yes.
Carlos in Colombia, right? So
yes, exactly.
No, the network sensors, again, there's no restrictions of where. There are certain countries, but Colombia is fine. And then they also actively scan the network to say what are the devices. So we'll map out the devices on the network, and then we correlate them with who they belong to. So now if Faison's logged into something, I'll know that Faison's logged into 4 devices versus 1. So if on a Sunday morning, if there's 10 devices that Faison's logging into, I can look into it and say, why is Faison logging into 10 devices Sunday morning? What is he doing? Right? So we're looking for that kind of activity as well, beyond just sending the logs into the box, which it will do as well. Okay. So that network sensor, what it does is that there's a switch behind the firewall. It'll span or port mirror off of that switch, meaning that it'll just mirror the traffic, right? No stopping, just mirroring. In this mirroring, we're going to be able to detect everything. We can see all the assets. We can do all the stuff I've talked to you about, but we can also put them internal tap, meaning that we can put a way for us to block internet access for an IP address or a subnet, right? But because you have Fortinet firewalls, we can put it into mirroring and actually just make the changes into Fortinet as well. So we can change the do not allow list on the Fortinet firewalls. So there's a lot of things that we can do to stop the attack on a network level, which is really, really, really important, right? So lots of different interesting capabilities there. We've seen, especially in like IoT, OT environments, smart devices where the communication protocol is an IT protocol. So sometimes with SCADA or SCADA systems, they'll have a unique protocol. That protocol will be communicating between the PLC system and the end device. Okay, that communication protocol is unique. But up until there, from the HMIs, the workstations, the historians, all that stuff up to that PLC is all IT. So what we're basically seeing sometimes is like we've seen cargo ships. We have some customers that have cargo ships and they put a network sensor there. They've seen a camera communicating to a Chinese email server. So things like that, we're looking for that kind of network traffic to say, why is this connecting to that? Why is this traffic going there? Is it malicious? Is it not? Is it normal? Right? And if it's abnormal, we can actually contain it and stop it and do a lot of response actions. So you get that network sensor as part of this service, which is really nice. So it's additional pieces of telemetry. The other thing that you get is we have 2 options. We have the option to augment your Defender. So you have Microsoft Defender for endpoint. Do you guys know if it's P1 or P2?
P2.
P2, perfect. So you have Defender P2, I assume with your E5 licenses. Do you have E5 licenses just for Defender P2, or do you have it for other services that you might be using?
A5 and Defender for P2.
So with your Defender for P2, in Microsoft, in your Windows environments, there's something called Sysmon. Are you monitoring Sysmon right now? Or I guess maybe one of the Shing people can also just help me out, maybe Johan. Are you guys monitoring
No,
Sysmon?
I don't believe they have Sysmon deployed.
Okay. So a lot of the times when you're taking a look at an attack, they might be changing registries, they might be launching PowerShell activity that's encoded through like normal activity that an IT admin might do. So we want to be able to see if it's malicious or not. So we put an agent alongside your Defender. It's not mandatory, okay? It's not mandatory. However, it will get us catching attacks sooner and faster and be able to contain them. We can use the Defender for containment as well. So we can just use Defender directly for the data and for containment. But if it doesn't see something, then we won't know about it. So this agent, it augments Defender. It sits alongside it. It's an MSI. It's not another antivirus or an EDR, but it sits alongside it. And it watches for log activity, including Sysmon activity. And then we can use it for containment. So there's times where we might see, because Defender is a signature-based and antivirus or EDR. So you'll see that Defender will say, I saw this signature on this process, I contained it, it's malware. But we might see PowerShell launching at the same time. So to investigate that PowerShell, this agent allows our SOC to investigate that to confirm it's part of the attack, and then to able to stop the attack even though it looks like it's been stopped by Defender. Right? So there's lots of times when there's that kind of environment, and this is at no extra cost. This is part of the service. It's 1% CPU overhead, 30 megabytes of disk space, 10 megabytes of memory. We do have another option if you're looking at replacing Defender now or later on, is what we call Aurora Endpoint Defense. It's a full EDR. The biggest difference here is that we're not just relying on a database of signatures. We have AI ML to look at malicious files, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to prevent the attack from launching. So traditionally an antivirus you'll click on an executable, it'll launch, and then it'll say, oh, malicious contain. So by that time it's been loaded into memory, and then the antiviruses try to stop it once the memory started to load it, and then try to contain that process. What we want to be able to do is, as soon as a file gets loaded onto the computer, we look at it through our machine learning and we can say, hey, the metadata in this file is abnormal, malicious, or random, and we need to contain it. So we quarantine it right away. If an attacker tries to execute a ton of malware at once, 80 to 90, hundreds of malware signatures at once, trying to overwhelm the antivirus, we have a very low overhead, and we're able to handle that scale and prevent the execution because we don't wait for the attackers or wait for the attack to load into memory. So there's a lot of benefits there. So we do have the capability to get to the point where we have the ability to control the launch of scripts, control the launch of memory to prevent a lot of these attacks from actually being initiated. And it works offline. So when you're taking a look at the OT environment, this supports old OSs, and it works in offline environments where you don't have internet access with the AI, which is really, really important, right? So we'll dig into that as we dig into the OT side. We can show you the demo of this. We can go into that a little bit more, but there's a lot of interesting capabilities with this endpoint that go beyond Defender. Okay, so that's an optional item as part of the architecture. It's not included in the price of SOC as a service. That's an optional item for the Aurora Endpoint Defense. What is included with the SOC as a service is this agent, that agent that I was telling you about that sits alongside Defender. So when we have all this information coming in, right, the process will seem similar. Everything with regards to the detection, the alerts, the response, the thing that Xing is doing for you will seem similar to you, because in terms of making it simple for you, Xing is taking care of a lot of it. But we want to show you what Xing is going to experience and what kind of data that they'll see. So in this scenario, with regards to the operational side, we might see that there is, and again, Xing team, you can add on to it as well from your experience, right? With regards to working with Arctic Wolf versus SecureWorks and your processes and all that stuff. But the main thing is that we're going to do a bunch of analysis before we even reach out to the Xing team. As we do the analysis, we're going to do the full tier 1 to tier 4 analysis with the data. A lot of the times we'll reach out to the Xing team if we don't have a secondary indicator of compromise. So essentially, if there is something that looks like an indicator saying that this is an attack, we usually wait for a secondary indicator or look for a secondary indicator to confirm that this is actually an attack before we take action. Because the last thing you want us to do is take down a system, but it's not actually an attack. It's a false positive. So that kind of a response mechanism right now, this is going to be one of the differences, that we do the investigation, we reach out to the Xing team. It'll either be through a ticket or a call. If we only see one indicator and we still think this is malicious, we're going to send you a ticket to the Xing team, and we're going to ask them, is that actually Carlos, right? Or is that actually John? Or is that actually Daniel? Then if it's not, we can take our action. So they just say, no, that's not them. Take the action, contain the user, contain the endpoint, contain the network, take that action. So we can take that action right away. And then from there, if there is a larger attack, let's say you have an older software that you need to use for your business, something like Citrix. And Citrix has a NetScaler bleed, meaning that they can remote in from that vulnerability. We're gonna detect when that vulnerability gets exploited, meaning when they come into that hole, we're gonna detect it, we're gonna stop it, then we're gonna call you to have you do the update to prevent that from being exploited again. So if there's an active attack, we actually work with Xing until the attack has been remediated on the call, right? So Xing team, I don't know if you have anything else to add with regards to the operational side on this, working with Arctic Wolf and all the stuff that you know, but I'm going to move into a little bit of the examples.
No, just a high level for the Canacol team here. We currently integrate with their ticketing into ours, and we update back and forth using both our systems. We can set up the same thing with the Canacol's ticketing system as well.
Is it ServiceNow?
No, they use
Service.
No, service desk
Service desk.
manage engine.
Plus. We've created, it's just emails back.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
You guys have created a two-way integration with your
You
ticketing
can mirror
system.
the same thing in Yep.
Awesome. Lung was cutting out there a little bit. Am I cutting out? Is my audio okay? Can everyone hear me properly?
Can hear you.
Yeah, you're good, Faizan.
It is.
Awesome. So in that scenario, the ticketing scenario will seem very similar with regards to you guys, how you guys are working currently. But the main thing is, as we go through this process, at the bottom, you can see the concierge team. Once we've stopped certain attacks, we're going to take a look at how can we prevent these attacks in that security journey. And then we track all this stuff for you. So this is a little bit more the proactive stuff, where we're going to do a prioritization of different areas based on the tactics that we're seeing. So we have over 150 of these different deep dives, things from firewall, deep dive, advanced firewall assessments, ransomware hardening, identity lifecycle exercises, external vulnerability assessments, all that stuff. There's a bunch of these things, and I'll walk you through some of these examples on how we do it, how we track it, what kind of things that we do for the reporting. But the main thing here is that with the architecture, once all the data is coming in, we do a lot of that work. We do the analysis. And then with regards to like an example of this is really going to be, and I'm showing you a couple of different examples. Let's look at this network sensor example, right? Right now with the intrusion detection, we don't really know what it means because we don't have it. In this scenario, at 5:23 in the morning on a Sunday, Faison starts logging into 10 different systems at once. At the same time, the Arctic Wolf sensor sees some HTTP traffic going to this IP address in Australia with potentially a command control signature. So like, hey, someone's trying to remotely control some items and do some work, but we also see PowerShell activity. So they're remotely controlling, they're launching PowerShell scripts, and they're logging into multiple systems. So our platform, the technology essentially takes that data, correlates it, and goes, oh, this is potentially a big attack, and escalates it directly to level 3, triage level 3. And this is quite important because if you get stuck in the process of level 1, level 2, moving it forward, there's some delays. We don't want to have that. We want to go straight to the top teams for the deeper forensics. Within a minute, they confirm that, yeah, this is the PowerShell empire. And again, all we have is network traffic and user logins. We call the customer, right? In this case, we would call Xing, and we would work with you guys, and we would stay on the call until the device has been contained, the password's been changed, the user's session's been revoked, everything's been done. Once we do that, once we stop the attack, we're going to take a look at what can we do to prevent the attack. Can you implement the principle of least privilege? Why did Faison have so much access? Can you enable MFA if he doesn't have it? Can we set up any sort of a group policy object to limit the use of PowerShell for him? Or can we install the Arctic Wolf agent alongside your Defender? Because if you install the Arctic Wolf agent alongside your Defender, we would have seen at 6 p.m. on a Friday that there was PowerShell scripts happening. So encoded PowerShell scripts. And when we see that, our platform actually decodes them. So our triage engineers in their dashboard, when they see an encoded PowerShell script, they click on it, they can see the decoded. So here at 6 p.m., we can see that someone's trying to change admin passwords, right? And then this gets escalated to the security team right away, and they can check where that PowerShell script started. So they can see, oh, this PowerShell script was started by a scheduled task by this user. Oh, we see that this potentially is a bootloader attack from this group Revel. And the next step is going to be a JavaScript package download and then a command control out. So we stop it right away. So in this scenario with the Arctic Wolf agent, even though antivirus didn't pick up on this, we're able to confirm that this is an attack and stop it within 8 minutes. Right? And then once we stop the attack, we give you the response and the reporting, and I'll show you some of the report examples of what we give you. But then the concierge team comes in again and does a little bit more of an advanced ransomware prevention. Okay, let's take a look at the use of implementing stronger controls on egress traffic, on the internet browsers, look at the use of macros on Microsoft Office 365, any sort of like app locker capabilities, right? So lots and lots of things that we'll do in a little bit more of an advanced way to help you understand what this attack compromised of and how we can prevent this from happening a little bit in the future. So bringing that endpoint data together with the network data, with all of the different logs helps us to do this, but even directly through Office 365 right now. So Office 365, we see a user logs in middle of the day, and then for 19 minutes, they do nothing. They're just looking through the emails, but after 19 minutes, they start changing calendar advice that don't belong to them. In this 19 minutes, we actually have a custom rules engine where the Shing team doesn't have to write the rules. You don't have to write the rules. They're all written internally by Arctic Wolf with global threat intelligence. This rules engine is thousands of rules, which has taken almost a decade plus to create. So we're not having to write them for each customer and then have to figure out, okay, do I miss this rule? Did I miss that alert? This custom rules engine, the AI ML detections, they're all been built for the last decade plus, and they're available globally across our customer set, right? So you're plugging into that threat intelligence. Once we do the scanning, we're looking, even in the middle, we're looking if the person is searching for anything like a purchase order, IR plans, onboarding documents, anything that they could, insurance policies, anything that they could use to compromise you or do a data leak. We're searching we have an alert, make sure that someone's not searching for that. If they start changing events that don't belong to them, hiding their activity, changing inbox rules, we're going to take a look at that and see if it's malicious or not, because a lot of the times, a lot of users are doing this all the time. So there's a lot of false positives. So when we take a look and we say, okay, this user is potentially doing some evasive maneuvers, our SOC team starts to investigate this. Okay, so our SOC team gets alerted, says there's potentially someone trying to evade some alerting. We need to take a look into it. And then we see that the user starts uploading documents. So at this point, we've taken the first indicator, right? The first indicator of malicious activity to the second indicator, and then we can take action. So we take action, we disable the user's account, we reach out to the Shing team, and then we take a look at what the users access, what logs, who accessed those documents, did anyone take a look at the documents that were uploaded into OneDrive, right? So right away, we want to stop this attack within minutes. However, if we don't have this secondary indicator, right, we're going to send you an alert. And I'll show you the alert in a second, but let me finish off this scenario here. One of the biggest things here, after we confirm the attack is done, we give you this report. We give you this incident root cause analysis report where it shows you the executive summary of what happened, events overview, making sure that it's confirmed that they couldn't log back in, recommendations of next steps and what to do, as well as a full audit log. Right? So here, essentially, you're getting this understanding of the scope, understanding if everything is done, because traditionally this kind of attack, it's like Faison is going to reach out to Carlos and say, Carlos, why is Scott sending me emails for e-transfers, right? I thought we already discussed this beforehand or something like that. And then Carlos is going to go, no, I don't know, Scott. That's not Scott. So then we start looking into Scott and we say, okay, how long ago was he compromised? What is he accessed? I have to call IR. So right away here is that you get all that information. We understand the scope. You have the confirmation that the attack has been stopped. You get all of this as part of that service, right? Any questions on these walkthroughs? I hope you feel comfortable interrupting me. Otherwise, for the sake of time, I just kind of run through them because we only have 15 minutes left. But any other questions around this scenario? I'm going to show you what happens on the dashboard and the ticketing and everything. Awesome. Thumbs up from Dorota.
It's clear for me.
I'm good.
Awesome.
Silence is golden, phase anthem. Thumbs up from Dorota. So keep going, buddy.
So
Yeah.
I have a question. In this kind of specific environment situation we have, where even when we work as a team, do you have a way to differentiate kind of, let's say, group of devices? Because, for example, if a device or the movement or the activity is happening in the Colombia side, can we, instead of going through Shin at that time, can you go directly to the Colombia team?
Yep, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, Carlos, that's actually why I was asking Dorota at the start of the call if this is an MSP Plus relationship, because we have the ability here to be very flexible and customize, these routes to remediation, these routes to service. There might be some things that you guys want to be involved in, and then maybe you're passing on a lot of it to the Shing team. We can customize all of that.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's one of the specialties is that this whole process is very customized with regards to you can do it based off of user groups in AD or Entra ID. You can do it off of criticalities. You can say these are my critical users. You can do it off of asset tagging, IP addresses, like you can do it off of a whole slew of things. You can do it off of site ID. There's a lot of different things that you can do it off of. So in this scenario, let's say we don't have a secondary indicator. We just have the first one. What do we do? Well, you're going to get a ticket, and the ticket is going to be in this dashboard as well as your current ticketing system, but it might lead you to this dashboard. So the dashboard here has a lot of data, FYI, which I'll walk over in a second, but the main thing, number one priority, is the tickets. So you'll get an email. It'll say Arctic Wolf high alert, Arctic Wolf security inbox rule configured. So we can see Jack. Jack is trying to target penny purse strings for wire transfers, right? We got this directly from Office 365. It looks like the normal IP address, normal time of day. However, it could be a bad actor hiding their activity from Jack, right? It could be an attacker that hiding their activity from Jack. If this is you and you're just testing our alerts, you just let us know. Like, hey, I'm just testing your alert. This is me, right? However, if this is not you, we need to do the following. We need to lock the user account, revoke their sessions, all that stuff. We can do this for Microsoft MFA. We can do this for Entra ID. We can revoke the session. We can reset, force password reset. We can do a few different things. If you're hybrid AD on-prem, we can do that in a hybrid environment as well. If you're just AD on-prem, we don't do that right now, but in August, we will be able to. So there's a lot of different things with regards to user containment here, but you have two options. If you're driving at home or something's happening and you need information, you can call this number any time of day. Within 5 minutes, you get a hold of a security engineer, right? And they can answer any questions for you with regards to what's happening, what's Jack doing currently. Or let's say if you're just driving, you're just telling them, I can't lock Jack out, but can you do that? Just call this number. Within 5 minutes, get a hold of a security engineer 24/7, any time of day. If you've already locked Jack and you want an investigation, this is where you would reply and you would say, I've contained Jack. Can you investigate him for the last week? Right? So in this scenario, you're talking to the concierge team. So the concierge team, they work your office hours and they're essentially going to be doing any sort of investigations, questions, consultations for you. But you also get the 24/7 SOC. So the 24/7 SOC is going to answer questions with regards to the data, any sort of information that you need live. And the concierge team will be there for the deep dives and the analysis and everything afterwards. But we also have the ability to give you access to that data. So we can give you something called data exploration, where you can actually go through all of your raw logs, whether it's Active Directory, firewalls, domain controllers, DNS, DHCP, whatever it is. You can have a simple to a complex query, but you can literally just search up, okay, I want to see all of Jack's logins in Active Directory over this last little while. But the events that I'm going to get are going to be raw data, right? So this is traditionally what a security engineer would see. Then they would go and copy this over and they'll make a spreadsheet and they'll do some artifacts and analysis. But we want to be able to just quickly understand all of Jack's activity in one place. So we also give you access to something like a correlated data. So we extract that data, correlate it, and you can literally just search up Jack's username here and say, Jack, what's Jack doing across the environment, whether it's cloud, endpoint, network, firewall. You can create your custom views as well. And then you can actually, once you select the pre-selected view like a cloud, you can click on columns, and then you can add in information for like an event name or event action or information from different areas like DNS or files or firewalls. The main thing we want to do with this data, other than an analysis afterhand, is to understand what's happening next. So I can see this new evasive inbox rule configured. There was a rule. What happened afterwards? Okay, he accessed a file, he accessed all the ASPX, and then he previewed a file called customer contacts. This is not necessarily something that he should be looking at or is supposed to be looking at, or it looks malicious. Now I can quickly decide to contain him or not. So here you can add in information from anywhere, look for specific IP addresses. You can look for a specific file name. I want everything that pertains to this file, like a resume, right? Any sort of resumes that have come in, I want to see that information. In this scenario, there might be an invoice.docs that came in, and I want to see all the activity with regards to the invoice.doc in this environment, whether it's in the files, networks, all that stuff, right? So there's a bunch of different things that you can essentially do and look for a file name, trying to hit load, and then see the activity of that file, the time that it was uploaded, downloaded, any sort of things that it's been trying to do or change. Oh, it's not working. But anyways, essentially lots of complex queries. You are not responsible for finding the attack though. This is really to help you understand that we're not a black box. You can see all the data, and then you can also create custom dashboards here with these queries. So once you create a specific query, maybe you have this Azure query and you want to be able to take a look at the logins, login activity, locations, all that stuff in the global map. You can see all that information, create the custom widgets, and then from here, you can also create custom alerts for yourself. There's a lot of different capabilities with regards to the data, the reporting, the dashboards, all that stuff. We can dig a little bit deeper as we need. But going back to the scenario here is, as you get that data, you do the response, we stop the attack, and we do the security journeys, the concierge team might actually say, okay, let's do an identity lifecycle exercise so we can take a look at the prevention of this attack. So we'll take a look and say, okay, what are the use of regular accounts versus admin, points of interest, right? Is there a database admin that everyone's trying to target? What about memberships, privileges, password management policies? Are there passwords that have a password set to never expire, right? Which is a password reuse attack, or Active Directory domains that are old and not been maintained that have a cross-domain capability for an attack. So there's a lot of different things that we're going to go and review with you and for you. Then we'll create a report that comes out and says, here's a security deep dive on an identity lifecycle exercise for you. And in this exercise, we found that there is 100 plus users that have passwords set to never expire, right? Here's a full list of them. And then here is 150 users that don't even need a password, right? And some of the users are part of regular groups plus admin groups, right? A lot of the time, especially in OT environments, the user has so much access. There's not a lot of access control. They can install whatever they need. So there's a lot of things that when we take a look at access control users' capabilities, you might say, well, can we dig into this one? Who are the people who are part of regular and domain admin, and what access do they have that they shouldn't? So then we'll do a subsequent deep dive for hardening exercises around there, where as we do the scan, we'll find that there's this user, G Donner, not even an admin, has remote access capabilities to the following servers, including HTools, right? Which might be a tools server that is an engineering server that you don't need to have access to. Can we leverage GPO? So we might recommend, can you leverage group policy objects to prevent the users from directly accessing it? Maybe create a specific remote user for that, right? And then as we go through working through the better best practices. So if you're going to do the GPOs, the group policy objects, it's better to do this. However, these are the things that you want to avoid. As we do this for you and we work on doing this for you, the concierge team is available as follow-ups, questions, recommendations, any sort of ongoing work with you on making these changes. And we document it all within this portal right here under security journey. Under security journey, you'll see the actual library of all the different deep dives that we have, from identity, Active Directory, firewalls, architecture, benchmarking, everything here that you can create your focus timeline out of. So you can work with the concierge team to say, I want to focus on identity. Create me a focus of identity-focused access, and we do a bunch of different deep dives. So in this scenario, you might see that identity lifecycle deep dive that we just did, and you can see the progress. So it's been delivered to you. We've sat down with you. We've shown you the report. You need to do the following things that we talked about in the report. We'll give you a tracking weekly report to track the progress to make sure everything is happening properly. We can also just create a dashboard widget for you to show you the progress. It'll be called like Spider Progress Report or dashboard. So we can create a little dashboard widget instead of giving you the report that you can just have on top of your dashboard. But this deep dive also aligns with this framework. So where this framework comes in is if you don't know what security journeys you want to dig into or what timelines or what focuses you want to do, we start off with a cyber resiliency assessment. And this have you guys done an assessment like a gap assessment like a NIST or CIS or anything like that to understand any sort of framework gaps or any frameworks that you're trying to line up to?
Yes, we have.
Which framework are you guys trying to line up to?
I know the name of the framework, but there's the insurance company. We have run some of those tests.
Okay, perfect. So in insurance, this is a part of it as well. As you choose a framework, what you'll actually get is these recommendations from insurance. So the same thing that your insurance company gives you, but we just track it here with the good, better, best policies. So you actually can track it here where what you're doing and how well you're doing.
What's the name of this framework? Sorry.
So this is like you can choose your framework, NIST, Cyber Essentials, CIS, right?
Oh, okay.
Insurability rating only, like if I want just the insurability rating stuff, right? So all these things are part of just insurance. So you can
depending on the framework, you have a rating.
Yeah, exactly. Depending on the framework. So once you do this and you go through and put like, you know how you do the insurance framework, you can see right here, oh, I have cybersecurity supply chain risks. I don't have anything with regards to supply chain. Now the concierge team can do deep dives that pertain to the supply chain monitoring systems or supply chain data or anything that we can do with regards to reducing the risk, understanding what assets you might have. So this kind of tool we use as a starting baseline to help understand where are our gaps. Then we go to the security focuses and create a focus based off of that, right? So you might have a threat and attack focus based off of that. Okay, we think we have some anomalous network traffic threats or ransomware hardening, right? Or GPO policy like we talked about. So once you create these different deep dives focuses, the concierge team will essentially go through, do those deep dives, give you the results. You take those results, and then you can go back to their assessment and say, now we've actually updated that insurability rating based attack, and we have the following, policies in place. So now that we've done the identity lifecycle exercise and we've identified what users have too much access and we've reduced this, now we have a policy with regards to principle of least privilege. It's been approved. We're doing it for around 60% of assets, and we'll need to increase that later on. You can see here the index increases here. That index allows you to see your insurability rating get better. So right away, what we're trying to do is we're trying to become more of a partner that is operationalizing security, helping you understand what it means to you beyond just the alerts. So instead of just being like, hey, there's an alert system or someone's logging in, we're trying to work with you on how well you're doing with regards to that security system. Do you have an IR response plan built? Is it kept securely here? What's your overall risk exposure? And then reporting on all of that on an ongoing basis. So beyond the deep dives, we have over 130 customizable reports, whether it's different vendor reports or overall security reports from things like daily new devices. So these are new devices, or you might have an unknown device on the network that's coming. Is that an IoT device? Is that an OT device? Is that a Raspberry Pi? What is that? And then from there, we have things that are specific, right? Active Directory reports, weekly security reviews, what's happening in the environment as a whole, right? This is what's happening. We saw that most majority of the investigations happen across this environment. We've ticketed across this environment. We're looking for patterns. If we see a pattern every time that there is CrowdStrike based alert, CrowdStrike stuff, so then we're going to say why, what's happening, where can we reduce that, right? And then from there, network reputation. You might have restrictions of countries that you don't want network access, but we might actually see network traffic going to those countries. So then we might do an analysis of what the firewall rules are, configurations, where is that leak coming from? So things like that, but also changes to Active Directory, user changes, service account lockouts. Is someone trying to target your service accounts? Is there anyone adding people to admin accounts? You'll actually get a ticket for this as well. If anything changes with the users, you don't have to wait for the report. You'll get a ticket in the dashboard as well. Someone added someone to a critical user group. All of these things are happening, but we're also able to give you executive summaries of all this information in a simple, easy to consume manner, able to help you understand your overall coverage, to be able to pass up the chain to investors, to the board, to whoever needs to understand what is happening in cybersecurity as a whole, whether it's per month, per quarter, all that stuff. So lots and lots of data. All of these reports are fully customizable. Beyond that, we give you security bulletins. Anytime there's a new zero-day exploit coming out, we'll send you a bulletin. Actually, this is an older one. We'll send you a security bulletin. We're seeing that there's a log4j. It's a zero-day exploit. Along with the bulletin, if there is a major exploit, we're going to call you. The concierge team will actually call you and give you an update if you are susceptible to this as well or not. We'll scan your environment proactively for you. And if there is something that you need to do, we will actually create a ticket for you to go and do it, right? So we're looking for zero-day exploits. We're looking for a lot of different things that are happening in the environment. And then beyond that, if you have any sort of compliance needs as well, we're able to help you meet a ton of compliance needs with regards to the NIST framework or CIS or anything like that. If you're looking at CIS, we help you meet the top 18 controls for CIS, not just the 8, but the top 18. As part of NIST, we help you meet a lot of the requirements for the NIST framework. This helps a lot in the IT, OT mix environments with regards to understanding operations and all that stuff. So overall, everything that I've kind of walked you through is all part of our SOC as a service. You get the 24/7, you get the 24/7 monitoring, the unlimited data ingestion, vendor agnostic, response actions with containment of users, endpoint network, the ability to see all of your data, the concierge team, the security journeys, the potential optional element for OT environments with offline endpoint security, right? Lots and lots of information, lots and lots of capabilities, all as part of our SOC as a service, right? One of the things that is intangible that you'll never see, and I have a minute, so I'm just wrapping up right now, is that all of the threat intelligence. One of the things I'll wrap up by saying is that our main business is not selling you security services. Our main business is that we actually work with the CISA, NSA to fight these security bad actors on a day-to-day basis. We're one of the companies that is actually actively identifying these bad actors for takedowns across the world, and you're getting access to all that threat intelligence as part of the service plugged into that system. That's the key thing, is that we understand their tactics. It's like a big chess game, right? So ending on that, we've talked about the pricing a little bit before and done some sizing on that. So we can dig into that later or just confirm it later on as well. But is this something that you were looking for? Does this resonate? Is there something that I missed? Maybe I should go over a little bit more in detail. I know that Scott wants me to probably go into this in a second, but we are at time, so I just kind of wanted to ask those questions.
Carlos, do you have anything else? Yeah.
Well, we need to come back to the recording.
Yeah,
It's
probably
a
Too much
lot.
information in just one.
Yeah.
But
It's a lot to digest for sure. Yeah.
yeah. So, well, it's pretty clear for me, but came from practice world. It would be a matter to identify what exactly would be interested.
Se fue el audio.
Yeah. So Carlos fell off there, or what?
I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if it was me because I'm in a cafe in Old, so it's coming
Yeah.
in and out for me as well.
It's my
Sorry,
turn.
Yeah, Carlos, you're back now. Go ahead.
Yeah. I would say that we will need to check then what of those, which of those multiple options that we definitely we are interested on, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
100%.
let us have an internal session.
Yeah.
And I will. Can we? It's not a. It was a presentation. No, it was a live. No. We'll
We
go
recorded
back to
it.
the recording, and that's it. I
Yep.
think
We recorded
it's
it.
enough with this, and then we can discuss. What if we have another session next week?
100%.
Once we walk through this, discuss internally, let's see. And as Dorota said, it's
100%.
not a comparison with Secure Works, but there's a minimum requirements we need to cover, right?
For sure.
So extra
100%.
things like some of you mentioned, nice to have, but well, we need to adhere to this strategy, but of course to the what can be managed and is within our budget as well.
For sure.
Right? So
100%. Yeah, and because you have the OT side and you have a couple of other areas, digging a little bit more into that, doing like this is like the first of many to just say if you like the concept, we dig into a little bit more information, dig into the next steps in terms of reviewing exacts, right? Like instead of just theoreticals, going in and doing a little bit more like exactly what it would look like for you.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So OT is a word we are not exploring, but we are working on with our operations team, right? They own that, which is okay, right? But as we all know, we converge in certain points, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the cybersecurity, they do not necessarily pay attention on that. We're working in it, like isolating the DMZ, all that stuff, having those firewalls between IT, OT, those basic things to keep that contained and isolated, basically. Actually, we were using a SCADA phase. I don't know if you are familiar with those solutions, but we were not taking advantage of those options the tool offered. So it didn't work it at the time because we were not prepared to use that, right? And but our OT team was not fully aware or what advantages they could took from that system, how interpret all that information coming. So it's like having nothing. We decided suspending that for a while. We'll revisit that by the end of the year and see if, how mature we are in terms of the cyber OT understanding from our team. We are training them through partners, through another third parties, consultants, and anything. And then if they buy, once we get that buy-in from them, we'll revisit that. And it would be fantastic integrating a solution like this with that OT world, right?
100%.
Because it's complementary. It's not one of the other. It's just one. But is that we need to be able to show them, not convince, it's show them that it works that way.
Yes.
We are not competing. We are not trying to perform any intervention to our operational systems, but still we need to be cautious and take care of that security of those. So
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Awesome. Carlos, Daniel, John, thank you for your time. Lung, Johan. I know a couple of the other people dropped. Dora, obviously. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to reach out. We're always here. And then once you guys discuss internally, we can set up a deeper dive on wherever direction you need to go.
Absolutely.
awesome.
Okay. Thank you,
Perfect.
team. Really appreciate this.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Take care. Bye.